I don't know about you, but here in Georgia, it's the first day of school for many people. So I don't know if parents are going to be like off dropping kids off at school or joining today, but we've got Mary in the house. Good morning, Mary. How are you? Happy Monday. We're talking today about something that I would love to see shift in the world of sales and business. Let me just say good morning, Nancy, Laura, Heather. Good morning, everyone. How are you today? Pop in the comments. Let me know what was amazing from this weekend. How can I celebrate you and what was good for you and for your family this weekend, Laura? It's so good to see you. And as always, if you're joining on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, pop me a comment. Let me know that you're here. Kalua, good morning, sister. I was just thinking about you. So good to see you on here. You know, I decided this morning to change the topic of the live stream. And I was going to be coaching on the anatomy of a perfect sales call, which I'll teach that at some point. Rita, good afternoon. How are you? But I always, every morning during my morning time, I really pray and meditate on what's the message that I need to hear. Thank you so much for the hearts. What's the message I need to hear for today? And then I find that often that message is something that gets translated for the community as well. And so what happened this morning is, as I was reading and studying, everything that I was reading about was about relationships and about connection and connectivity. And I thought about, gosh, how much would I love to shift the perspective in the world of sales and business to one where we realize that we can have everything we want and we can make the money we desire and create the life we desire, but not by having to beat other people down in order to get it. And I've got a hair on my nose, so if I'm scratching, I don't know. It is what it is. It is what it is. It's Monday. But this really, I forget how much this happens because I've been out of the corporate. I've done corporate sales training. I haven't stopped doing that, but I've been out of corporate myself for quite some time. And I was really reminded of this last week. I hosted a private workshop and heard from several women in there about about what's being taught in terms of how to sell. And one woman shared that her manager was using war analogies to sell. We've got to fire bullets at our customers. I've heard from another woman recently who I'm coaching about they're having active trainings within and this is a big company, active trainings within their sales team on how to falsely manufacture pain for people. And Patty, good morning. It's so good to have you. How many of you were taught? Here's what I want to know. So for those of you who are live, how many of you were taught that in order to sell and in order to hit your income goals and your targets, that it had to be combative in some way, shape, or form, even if it was low level, kind of underpinnings of what you were being taught? Think about winning the sale, winning something from someone else. And I want to today hopefully shift our mindset around that. I'm reading this book right now. I don't know who's read The Power of Intention by Dr. Wayne Dyer, but it's a beautiful book. Oh, Lee, good morning. Lee, I'm so glad you're here. Happy belated birthday, my friend. I know you celebrated your 75th on Friday, right? So I'm so glad you're here. Stay as long as you can. It's beautiful to have you here. So this book, who has read this? If you have not, I cannot recommend it enough. It was actually recommended by a woman who I'm having on the podcast tomorrow. Incredible, incredible woman named Marie Claire. And she went from homeless, living in her car, to building a 7-figure business. And her story is profound. And she talked about this book was one of the most helpful resources for her. So I cannot recommend it enough. But I want to read to you a part today about building and creating holy relationships with other people. And I'm going to help kind of translate that into what does that look like for us in the business and the sales world. But one of the things that he shares in here towards the beginning to me was so oh my gosh, we've got to shift this. That the average by the age of 12, The average American child has witnessed 14,000 simulated murders on television. And I want you to just think, and it actually makes me want to cry when I say that. I wasn't expecting to cry with that. But I want you to think about that. And I want you to think about the messaging that's given in our culture. Woo, I wasn't expecting to cry. But I think that's so sad. And I think about how that translates into how we think we have to run our business. And I know it sounds like it's not connected, but it is, because we think that we have to beat other people down. And we think that we have to win or like kill, right? Like even think about some of the analogies. I've had sales managers that are like, did you go out and like kill your prey and bring back the hide? Like just the most ridiculous analogies that are being taught. And I want to invite all of us to shift into a higher level of thinking. I don't know why I'm like so tearful about this morning. It just is what it is. I want to invite all of us to shift into a higher level of thinking about how we can get what we want by using love and by building these beautiful, holy relationships with other people that this book talks about. Let me just check comments. Laura, you love that book. Oh, it's so good. I can't recommend it enough. It's so beautiful. A lot of sports analogies used in sales. Yeah, which is like totally fine, right? It's just, the whole, like the underpinnings of what is taught is that someone's always winning and someone's always losing. And to hear women sharing that their managers are using like bullet analogies, and that's not okay. Like that's not okay for us to be using, and for us to be perpetuating any sort of underpinning of like violence or murder at all in our business culture. So Wendy, so true and real, in need of change. Oh yeah, I totally agree. Michelle, good morning. Let me check comments here. Lee is saying new paradigm, lift other people up. Exactly. Jan, wow, so important to praise and encourage our kids because of the negative views. Yes, exactly. All right, my friends. So I want to read this to you, and I want to invite you to just think about this. Is, for whatever reason, this is the message that needs to come through today. So I'm going to trust it. I was reading this part of his chapter this morning called Your Impact on Others When Connected to Intention. And so the whole, if you haven't read this book, it's such a beautiful, beautiful book. And the whole concept behind it is that when we connect to the power of intention, which is the power that lives and breathes through your body, which is the power that makes all things possible, when we become one with that, then we can radically shift our lives, our circumstances, our environment. It's such a beautiful book. And he's talking today about how we impact others positively when we connect to intention. And so I want to read you this segment. It'll be a minute or two, that he calls the holy relationship. Thank you so much for the hearts. I'm so grateful to be here with each of you today. He says, one truth that I've recognized during the years of my own growth is that it's impossible to know my perfection if I'm unable to see and honor that same perfection in others. The ability to see yourself as a temporary expression of intention and to see yourself in all of humanity as a characteristic of the holy relationship. It's the ability to celebrate and honor in all others the place where we are all one. So I want you to just pause and think about today, this week, if you were to go about your business dealings, your sales conversations, with realizing how connected you are to the person on the other end of the screen, on the other end of the phone, on the other end of the social media post that you're doing, and realize that whatever you're putting out to them is also coming back to you. And how would you shift your energy in that moment? How would you shift your mindset? How would you shift your emotion and focus on sending love to that person in that moment, realizing how interconnected we actually all are? Kalua is saying, oh, Gail, good morning. Michelle, I don't know if I welcomed you yet. Good morning. Kalua is saying, I was washing my face when you showed the book. Yes. Oh, you'll love it, Kalua. It's The Power of Intention by Wayne Dyer. Here you go. Oh, you can see, I can't see it above the comments. You can see it above the comments. There you go. The Power of Intention. So I can't recommend it enough. He says, in an unholy relationship, you see yourself as separate from others. And that's really where I think so much of the problem comes in our business world today, is that we have this erroneous belief that we are separate from other people. And when we think that way, we think that we think there's no repercussions towards us when we do something to get a quick win or get a quick sale. We think it becomes that like me versus you mentality. And I remember being brought up in that and taught that in corporate sales for so long. And this is not, I hope that this doesn't come across like I'm bashing corporate. It's not, and this happens with startups, solopreneurs. It's not just corporate, but I think the prevailing business mentality today in our culture is still one of me versus you and of separation. And when we show up that way, not only does it not feel good, but your results are far less powerful. Like you think you've got to go out and win something to get the sale to close. You don't. Let me tell you right now, the fastest way to achieve your goals, the fastest way to bring in more money, the fastest way to create what you want is to realize how interconnected you are with the people you serve, and show up that way, and show up in love, and show up in appreciation, and show up truly. I mean, we give lip service to it, right? Like it sounds good to say, oh, I'm in service, like servant selling, right? We give lip service to that. But I can't tell you how many times I've heard that said by the face of an organization, and behind the scenes, that's not at all what's taught. That's not at all the actual energy of what's being taught. And so I'm here to say that I want to shift that. And I know that you're here this morning because you want to shift that too. Lisa, good morning. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. I was thinking about you this weekend, sister. It's so good to see you. So let's keep going. He says, in an unhealthy relationship, you see yourself as separate from others. It's the feeling that others are primarily useful to satisfy ego's urges, and that people are there to help you get what's missing in your life. And how often do we think that way? I know for me, when I was in my time of massive unawareness in my life, it was like, oh, if I could just close this sale, then I'd feel good. And it was like, did I want the best for the other person? Yes. But was I also focused on filling a hole in my own life? Yes. And so that's low level, that's low vibe. And that's not how we're being called to show up these days as a community, as a collective, as a consciousness. He says, in any kind of a relationship, this attitude of separation and, listen to this, potential manipulation creates a barrier between you and the power of intention. And that's why, like when my client told me about this meeting about how do we falsely manufacture pain for our clients so they want to buy faster, it was like, that's manipulation. Like that is manipulation. Now, do we need to learn how to get real with people? Like I was having the same conversation with a woman in the workshop last week where she was like, all my people are great friends with me, but I'm not closing anything. And so part of being in service is being able to have real conversations with people and be direct with them and help them not just feel good in the moment in the conversation, but really come face to face with the change that they need to make. And if that change involves hiring you, then you need to help them do that. So this is not about like we just stay surface level and fluffy and feel good. But when it's being taught and perpetuated from a leadership standpoint that we need to falsely manufacture pain to try to hit our sales quotas and our goals, that's not okay. That's scarcity thinking. That's short-term thinking. And that's not only going to hurt you and your reputation in the long term, but you're actually going to get lower results. You're going to get lower results. Let me just check comments here. Wendy's saying that conflict can add to staff turnover too. 100%, because it doesn't feel good. Like if you're doing something that you think you have to do to make money and it doesn't feel good, take it as a very clear sign that it's the wrong way. Take it as a very clear sign that it's not the most powerful way to do it. Thank you so much for the hearts. Lisa is saying authenticity in business is recognized by clients worthy of your exchange of services. Yes, yes, yes. And that's part of, for each of us, stepping into our own power and realize and shifting into, like Lisa, to your point, worthy of our services, right? Like having higher standards for yourself of what you're willing to accept and not willing to accept in terms of treatment from your clients in terms of treatment from vendor partners, right? We have to all raise our level of expectation for what we receive from others and what we put out. Kalua is saying that sounds like narcissism. It is. It is. It truly is. And it's false thinking. It's the false thinking of separation that creates that. Lee is saying, oh, you just ordered the book. Oh, yes. And I will DM you, my friend, too. Thank you. You're going to love this, Lee. It's so powerful. It's so powerful. And happy belated birthday, my friend. He says, the signs of unholy relationships are quite clear. People become defensive, fearful, hostile, standoffish, and don't wish to be in your company. So just think about, is that going on with you, with your customers, with your team, in your personal relationships? And again, there's no judgment on it, but notice it and say, wow, there's something that I'm bringing to the table here that's not in highest alignment with who I really am, and with this idea of this holy relationship. He says, as you change your thought patterns to raise your energy vibrations and reduce the demands of your ego, which is kind of where it all comes from, you'll begin developing a reverent or holy relationship with others. Then everyone is perceived as complete. Let me see if there's anything else that we really want to say. I'm going to skip a few sentences and end here. He says, any relationship or even an encounter from the holy perspective is a coming together with a beloved self aspect and discovering a stimulating connection with the power of intention. So I just want to encourage you today that, whatever is being taught, whatever you are feeling like you have to do to achieve your, it's a new month, right? We're kind of coming back off of that summer vibe. Like y'all know I've had my fall cup for a while. Like I'm so here. I got my pumpkin candle burning. I'm here for the fall vibes. Elizabeth, good morning. We're coming into kind of that season of getting refocused, right? On what are we creating? You're probably thinking this month about your revenue goals. And I want to invite you to think about, what if the way that I got there faster was by focusing on building and creating these holy relationships and seeing myself as one with my customers, and seeing how interconnected we truly are, and that anything I put out gets magnified back to me tenfold. And what if I came to it from that abundance mindset, that abundance mentality, remembering that clients are not your source, remembering that you create powerfully and differently when you show up in this way and when you implement these principles that we live by here in the She Sells world, right? Regardless of man, woman, non-binary, I don't care. We can all live by these principles. And what if you showed up that way today, this week, this month, and learn to tune into how you're feeling along the way as your guidance as to whether you're on the right path or not? What if you brought more love into your interactions with others? What if you brought more possibility into your interactions? And what if you brought more joy and more, the word that I've been really focusing on like this weekend and even this morning is just bliss. What would it look like to be in bliss and to focus on helping to create that for the people who you get to serve, who you are privileged to serve through your company, through your sales, through your interactions? What if we focused on building holy relationships with other people and just waited and saw how our results skyrocketed? Like, run an experiment, have fun with it, be light about it, enjoy it, and see how it shifts. And I don't know if we'll fully get there in this lifetime, but my intention is, as long as I'm living and breathing on this planet, that I'm here to help us all shift and raise our consciousness around how we relate to each other, particularly in the business environment, realizing that there's an unlimited amount of money, clients, opportunities. And if you find yourself in any sort of scarcity thinking or unholy relating, it's because you're thinking incorrectly about what's possible for you. And you're shifting back into that low level combative energy that's not only going to not feel good to anyone, but it's going to separate you and keep you farther from what you want. So that's what I got for you this morning. Let me check comments real quick. Sierra, I'm so glad that this is resonating. Laura, yes, love it. Lisa, that is the evolved new way forward. Yes, yes, yes. And it is really, it's that remembrance that it's like, we're each here for such a time as this, right? I really think this is what we're being invited to shift into as a culture, as the, the generations who are here present on this planet right now. And I love to think about, thank you so much for the hearts. I love to think about what's going to be different for our children and our children's children and our children's children's children as we all work to shift this consciousness and shift this way of being in the world. So my friends, and definitely get the book, The Power of Intention, if you have not read it yet. It's absolutely beautiful and profound. Lisa's saying high vibration, attract abundance. Amen, sister. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. I love you each. I'm grateful for you. Tomorrow, I'm going to be sharing with you, oh my gosh, the podcast interview tomorrow it's probably one of my favorites ever. You're going to love this woman. Again, Marie Claire, she's, shifted from being homeless, living in her car to building a 7-figure skincare business. And she talked about one of the biggest things that helped her in that process and the mindset she had. And I'm going to teach it tomorrow on the live because it's just so powerful. You're going to love it. Rita, I'm so glad this spoke to you. Yeah, this was just like, this is what we needed to talk about today. At least this is kind of what I felt like my orders were for what we needed to talk about. Wendy, you're so welcome. I'm so glad that this resonated. All right, my friends, send me a DM as always if there's anything I can help you with. I love you. I'm grateful for you. And wishing you a beautiful day. I'll look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Bye for now.